Hey everyone, hope you're doing okay with what's happening around. Hope you're staying safe and staying healthy. With the COVID-19 school closure, we're going to be taking things a little bit differently with the learning, and we'll be providing these video lessons for you to take and learn from home. These are supplemental classes, so they will not be graded just like regular assignments or affecting your grade like such, but there are some assignments and like these little worksheets for you to do. So just enjoy the video and follow along. Alright, so we're going to first start with recording some drum elements, and I'm going to be using my phone, and I'm using like a voice recording thing, and this device has like a capability to record some sounds and be able to transfer that sound onto my computer. So let's go ahead and start with a kick drum. I have this power tool shell, and I'm going to be using this to make a kick drum. Let's see what we can get. Hit record. Recording from earlier, maybe like a higher frequency of the kick. We also probably need some like a lower frequency of the kick. So I found some of the hollow cabinets that I have in my house, and we're going to sample that. So here we go. Now we're gonna get some snare elements or some clap elements around those frequencies basically. And so what I'm using for that is just this simple ruler that I found, and I'm gonna be basically clapping against my desk. Let's see what that sounds like. That's a good one. So now that we got like the snare and kind of like a clap sound with the ruler, I also want to throw in some like natural clap sound. We're going to use our natural hands here, and I'm going to go ahead and record some clap. So now we're going to record some percussions and some cymbals. Here we have some of the things that I've chosen to make some of the sound elements with. And first we have nails in the box. It's pretty standard. Doesn't really need a whole bunch, but I think this sounds pretty interesting. Yeah. Next we have rice inside a jar with a cap on. I think we can make some pretty cool cymbal sounds with this one. Third, we have a water bottle. I think we're going to only use this once, crushing it up, so we'll see what kind of sounds we come up with. Make sure to recycle after if you ever record your samples. Recycling is very important. Saves our planet. Next thing I have is a cup that I'm going to probably... Oh, there we go. Probably gonna beat it with this pencil and see what kind of cymbal sounds I get. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. Yeah. Hit record. Next we have the rice in the jar. Let's go ahead and hit record. We have the cup and the color pencil. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Now we're going to be moving on to the melodic parts of it. You don't necessarily need a MIDI keyboard or any instrument to do this. You can actually in fact just draw it into your Ableton if you want to, but in this case I just want to kind of show it so people kind of understand what you can do on the keys and how to come up with melodies. So here we go. I set the BPM to 100, so the metronome sounds like, and that's the beat that I will make it to. Okay. So let me go ahead and hit record here. Let's just come up with like different variations, you know? Basses. This is going to be a little bit inaudible for you guys unless you have like headphones or something. First, I'm gonna play this on the higher octave so you can actually maybe hear this on whichever device that you're using. So let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and demonstrate what kind of thing that I'm doing here. So, not sure if you can hear that. Let me go a little bit octave higher. So, realistically, if I were to play, I'm actually looking for a sub bass, so it would be played really, really low. I've downloaded all the samples through my phone to my Gmail, and I've extracted it as a zip file and put it in file and named accordingly. So, but at the same time, because I'm using an iPhone and it converts it to M4A format, I need to somehow either convert it to MP3 file or a WAV file. In order to do that, you would use an iTunes. I think this is probably the easiest way for most people. I think most people own iTunes. I think this is the greatest way. So what you're going to do is locate your samples and drag them into iTunes. And once you do so, it'll come up like this. Select all of it, file, convert, and I actually set my preferences to WAV file. Some people have it as MP3, but at this point I have it as a creative WAV file. If you're not really familiar with converting sounds, I highly advise you to Google it or try to look up how to do so. So let's go ahead and hit create WAV file, and this will show up. So at this point, we can get rid of the W4A format ones, which are the highlighted ones, and I'll just hit backspace or delete, and you can just hit that. And in order to find these samples, I would hit right click and show in Windows Explorer. Boom. And all these are the WAV files. So here we go, make a new file and call these the WAV samples. Go in there, select all, and let's drag all in there. Great. Now we have it all in there. As we see here on the places, this is where we get our samples and review all those folders. So if you don't know how to put these on here yet, as we learned, we click the add folder button, locate your things, and you would basically select where the samples are. In my case, I already have it on here, so click on it and then select folder. I'm going to select all these and drag them onto one track, and we'll go ahead and divide all of these. So let's go ahead and with the clap, cup, make a new track here, kick high, kick low, nail box, roller. Oh cool, yeah. It just also the cool feature on Ableton 10 is that if it's like an audio track like this and you drag in whatever the audio clip name is, it changes into that, so it's really convenient. So as you name your samples, and if you tidy them up and organize them and name them beforehand, it really helps you out. Now that we have everything in here and then we have tidied up all the names and things, we're going to refine all these sounds. In order to do so, we're going to select all of these ones and double click them. And usually, depending on the tempo, Ableton likes to control everything and make sure that everything's in grid. But at the same time, we want everything to be an original quality. In order to do that, select all these samples and hit watermark off. Once you do so, everything should go back to its original tempo. Now, I'm going to make a beat out of this now. Let's go ahead and start with drums. Let's go ahead and make a new audio. With these lessons, I'm going to be mostly doing things in audio, so it's visually a little bit better for you guys, and also it's less complicated if you do tend to go over here and work and get creative. Sometimes MIDI can be a little bit easier, but I tend to think that working in audio is probably the most clean way in my personal opinion. So let's go ahead and start. I like this kick, so let's go ahead and review these sounds. Okay, so I just created a new pattern and just made it for the kick. So let's name that kick. And let's review some of these other sounds. And use some different varieties of shapes. I think that will do. Okay, interesting. I thought I had another sample in here, but let's just work with what we have. So here's a second high kick. I personally like to put them together. Let's see what we got here. Get rid of the sound there. These are called fades, and make sure that you make it nice and tidy here. And the reason of the fades is so that you let the computer know, hey, here's where the signal starts and here's where I want the audio to end, so that it doesn't clip. Sometimes if these fades aren't properly in place, it just kind of makes like this really annoying sound. So let's go ahead and do these. And I'm just going to go ahead and mute myself with the voice and work on some patterns here. So I quickly just transpose it down basically, and it basically lowers the pitch of it. I really enjoy the top sound, but at the same time, it sounds also really cool when it's pitched -8. So let's go with that. Okay, so before I do go on, I do enjoy having some sort of like a navigation or like a guidance for me to reference everything off from. So let's go ahead and add like a snare. That's usually what I try to reference my tracks off of. And it definitely gives the producer like, hey, here's like this little pattern that you should be following. So let's go ahead and preview one of those and find one. Okay, so I just have some favorite sounds that I've picked from the samples and like the recordings that we did. So here we go. Let me go ahead and put the patterns out. Usually what I like to do is I like to put the claps and the snares on the 0.3s, whether if it's 1.3, 2.3, 3.3. The point is that every single bar, the clap and the snare basically gives you this guidance and the drive. So let's go ahead and keep doing that. What I'm going to do is basically take the same recording of the claps and go ahead and pitch this down just to give it like a layer. Even though it's the same clap, you know, just by transposing it and then pitching it down definitely helps it give it some clarity to the difference. Bringing this up here, and let's go ahead and combine these claps and the rollers together. Cool. Now we have combined all those sounds together. I would add some more variations to this and like use like different types of like waveforms for the sake of, you know, variations. But let's go ahead and just use this one clap and let's just go ahead and copy and paste it over. So 4 should be good. Let's go ahead and work around with that. Let's go ahead and move all these to the side. I'm pressing shift to scroll to the left and right, and hold shift to just move around. Let's just go ahead and put this all the way over here. We're going to start to work with 4 bar, 8 bar, 16 bar, and then overall. What I personally like to do is always start with the drum beat. Doesn't matter where it is. You don't necessarily have to write intros first or the build first or anything like that. But what you want to mainly focus on is to first start writing the big chunk of the song where it's really important. My mistake. So I usually write music in double time, so that's why it's on third. So in this case, it would be a 1.2s. So it'll be 1.2, 1.4, 2.4, and such. It's my mistake. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and write this drum pattern real quick. We're just using kick drum and the snare that we just quickly just made here. Let's just go over here. Minimize these. I'll organize it so it looks a little bit better. So let's label that kick, and let's get gather these together, and let's call that clap snare. Okay, looks a little bit cooler and more organized, I think. Let's go like that. Here, cool. I'm using the metronome to keep myself on beat for now. I know it's a little bit insane to just keep this always on, but over time you just kind of get used to it and it's just going to be like silent for you. So let's go ahead and keep going. Okay, just to make sure that we're not clipping off the audio, I'm just going to go ahead and add a limiter on there so that we don't clip the audio and just make this video horrible for everyone. So, so far I have this beat going on. It's a pretty simple one, nothing too crazy, but it's enough to get us started. And obviously I came out with it pretty quickly in like a minute or so. So let's go ahead and preview what it sounds like all together without the metronome. Cool. And the reason why I chose this type of pattern is because as we discussed earlier, we're making like a happier type of song here. So therefore, the faster it is, it's more, energetic. That's where you get like the energy drive out of it. And as we recorded some of these pianos and stuff earlier, they're also just kind of like happier type of vibe too. So just go well both together. So as well as we got the kicks and the snares, let's go ahead and find some like cymbal elements that we can probably use. Okay, so another really cool thing to do here is that I want it to be like a cymbal type of drive, and I'm looking for a pattern that goes and as you noticed, there are some velocity differences within the two different notes. So what you can easily do is select this one and lower the volume a little bit, and then you definitely get like a different type of variation. So if you just loop that, you will get this. It's still the same sound, but what I'm trying to do here is create the difference and basically replace it as a cymbal pattern. So now let's listen to it overall, what it sounds like. Awesome, pretty cool. So we have all those together. Now let's call that one cymbal. And actually, let's call that a hi-hat. It's probably better. So let's go ahead and put this up here. Cool, now we have this drum pattern. Group these all together. Awesome. We're almost there with the drums, so let's just like add a few more things. Let's go ahead and add and find some percussions here and fill those in. Yeah. Great. Now I grab some of these percussive type of sounds and let's make it into a pattern. I'm going to try to keep it short and just fill in just minor things just to get the drive and the drum pattern a little bit more interesting. Okay, I think that sounds really cool. Let's see what we get with that. So now that we have the drum pattern, let me get organized here. Let's go ahead and minimize all these things real quick. This is the cup, nail box, and because these elements are used in this case percussive, I'm going to just label them percussion. Okay, so now that we have those little piano things done here, let's see how long we're at. Okay. All right. Now that we have all these things together, I'm just gonna quickly go over all these melodic elements and then try to fill them in. Again, after you recorded this MIDI melody pattern, you would still need to edit them a little bit. As you can see, there are some latency issues here, so I want to correct them and make them be in a proper place. So you would select all and either press Control U or Command U in Mac case, and then quantize. Let's go ahead and use the metronome to keep us on beats, and I'm gonna quickly just go over and just play with these a little bit. Cool. Now, as you can tell, every 4 bar there are different variations happening. So what I like to do is sudden changes just kind of throws a groove off sometimes, and for the safety of it, we're just going to use every 4 bars here. So let's go ahead and slice those. And there's pattern one, pattern two. So let's go and drag these over and see how they sound. Cool. Everything coming along together. Awesome. So now let's go ahead and bring the sub bass together. You probably can't hear it too well if you're not wearing a headphone or with a bigger sound system, but we'll just go ahead and fill this in here. So I like that pattern a little bit. So oops, let's go ahead and start using this and drag this sub bass or hip hop bass here to here. And let's hear them together. Okay, so the reason why the sub bass doesn't sound like a sub bass is because I want you to be able to hear these sounds. So I'm going to go ahead and transpose the octave down so it's a little bit lower. I'm going to go ahead and apply some of these audio effects to make this sub bass sound more present. I'm going to go ahead and use Ableton stock plugins here. To remind you, all of these are Ableton Live Suite plugins. So if you do have that, go ahead and use it. If you have like some of the lower edition, which is fine, there are definitely like condensed down versions of some of these, and they're okay to use. So I'm going to go ahead and saturate the space real quick, and let's go ahead and throw an EQ8. I just want the sub bass part of it, and I just don't want the rest. So let's go ahead and EQ that real quick. I'm going to play around, see what the sweet spot is, and after that, I'll come back to the voice. Okay, that sounds pretty good to me. I'll come back to that later on to make the better version of it. So here it is all together. So I went ahead and quickly just did like a minor adjustment to make the drums sound a little bit better. I think it should overall sound a little better. I'm going to turn the master volume down. Don't ever do this, but I'm just doing it so that because I think the OBS recording is kind of like freaking out. So I'm just doing this for the purpose of that it sounds a little bit better to you. Cool. So let's go ahead and hear what we have so far. Scratch that. So let's see what we have so far. Alright, now the only thing that we're probably missing is the little toy synth that we just kind of put in there. Let's hear what the sounds. Because there are some other melody in here already and there's a lot of percussive things going on, you don't want to overdo the whole stuffing the creative content in there. What I like to do is I use a metaphor of imagine if everyone were talking, imagine if there are like 5 to 6 to, I don't know, maybe like 10 people talking all at once. Imagine they're all talking at once. It's just almost impossible to make out what people are saying. You maybe pick up 1 or 2 words or something, or some phrases that people say, but overall it's just really overwhelming. And that's the same idea we're going to be using in order to organize these. So we are going to let some of these things breathe by itself, and we're just going to minimally insert some of these melodic contents in there. I'm going to go ahead and mute my voice and do so. I'll just quickly do this over. Okay, I think something's missing here. Maybe it's just one of the drum elements. I think I need something to add more drive to it, so I'm going to go in here and quickly find some and replace it in there. Alright, now that we have this basic loop going on, now it's time to phrase everything. From here, everything becomes a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and quickly fill these out. I'm going to select all, Kind of put them all here. We're not going to use anything too crazy as far as arrangement goes and the locators. So as you put your cursor up here, it has this little speaker icon. Right click, add locator. Let's go ahead and type in intro. Let's go ahead and give it some sort of build. And let's give it a drop. And let's give it a break. So let's just go ahead quickly, excuse me, let's go ahead and work with this. Now, as far as intro goes, most of the things should be pretty basic and pretty open. In this case, I think this sound is pretty, I think melody will be pretty cool. This sound, I think that will do. So let's go ahead and let me go ahead and fill in the intros and see what fits best. All right, so what we have so far is some very basic minimal of what the huge chunk would be. The build consists on just a simple drive of the drum elements. I would personally use a lot more different type of sound effects here, but in this case we're trying to work with what we have here. I would have also spent a little bit more minutes on filling these things in and then getting it more creative, but so far I think this is pretty good enough. So again, this is the huge chunk of the beat that we worked on. This is the main focus of everything. This is what stems the intro, build, and the break as well. So definitely something to focus on. Everything else comes along with it. So to conclude all of this, we have recorded our own sounds with ideas of what can be used as an uplifting sound. As far as melodic contents go, we chose like some very bright and like uplifting type of chords. The next video based on a different mood, and we'll do a different take. I will be addressing in the beginning of the next video of what we'll be covering. But so far, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.